You are authorized to penetrate city seals and search outside the dome.
The seals? Question, what seals? Outside? Well, there's nothing outside.
You will find sanctuary and destroy.
Welcome to the Cinematic Flashback Podcast. Get ready to hop into the Wayback Machine as we journey through the wild, bold, and unforgettable films of the 1970s. Each episode, we break down a classic movie or forgotten gem by exploring the who's who of each film, diving into the premise and plot, seeing how it performed then and now, and wrapping things up by asking, did it groove through the decades or did it lose its beat? Today, we are checking that our life clocks are not flashing red as we dive into Michael Anderson's 1975 science fiction dystopian film, Logan's Run, starring Michael York, Jenny Agutter, and Richard Jordan. And joining me today is my co-host, Matt Sargent. Well, Matt, it's been a while since we actually recorded together. I think it was back in June when we talked about the taking of Pelham 123. How you been?
We did talk to each other during the Jaws game show episode, which I got to tell you was a hoot. We had a ton of fun. I learned a lot from the guys who did it with us. And anybody that's listening to us, you definitely want to catch that episode. That is fun.
Aren't those guys?
They are. They're really good. Like I was telling you, I felt like a minnow in a shark pond appearing with those guys. But
in all fairness, they've been doing it for 6 seasons, and we're rounding the corner on our first full season. So.
Yeah, I still think those guys have got us a little bit on movie information. I'm definitely what do you call it, a dilettante when it comes to movies. Just I enjoy watching them. I enjoy telling you my impressions. I am not great with all the details, but I think that's why we make a good team. You like the details, and I give you sort of my impression, and I have some historical impressions since I'm older than you.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Not too much. So did you see Logan's Run when it came out in
I did
75?
not see it when it came out. I got to tell you, I am shocked that it was PG, but
we got to discuss that.
Yeah, we'll discuss that. But I didn't see it in the movie theater. Is that true? Let me put it this way. I don't recall seeing it in the movie theater. I do recall watching it on television and in later Blockbuster video checkouts and stuff like that. I may have seen it in the movie theaters, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of my movie-going science fiction stuff really began at Star Wars.
Which was the very next year.
Right.
From this movie.
Yeah, that's really what I recall. I do have some impressions of things I remember about this movie, and I know we talked about it. When we talk about the movie, I think you'll see where I'm coming from.
Well, I'm pretty convinced that I saw this at least by my freshman year in high school back in 82, just because I recall a very juvenile adventure friend of mine and I had at a local mall where we started shouting out runners as if we were Sandmen.
To go get a goofy sweatshirt with a stripe in the middle.
You just silly kids and all. Growing up, I was obviously aware of it. One of the magazines that as a young science fiction aficionado that I would read is Starlog. And Starlog would always have articles about movies that came out in the 70s, science fiction films, monster films, just movies that I hadn't yet had a chance to see. So I was aware of Logan's Run. I was more so aware of Logan's Run by the television series spinoff that was playing on CBS. I remember watching that very specifically. So coming back to watch it now, I think that 2 things struck out at me. I didn't realize how dark this film was. And I was going to mention the questionable PG rating.
Well, it wasn't highly sexualized nudity, right? It was like going swimming or putting on furs to be warm, which I thought was a little silly. But I want to say something about how you were running around the mall yelling runners, because I remember running around the neighborhood or something yelling sanctuary. Sanctuary. And then, of course, I don't know if you recall it, but the Hunchback of Notre Dame is famous for, he's yelling sanctuary, sanctuary, because of the church's sanctuary. People, if they could get to the church. So that was all in my head rattling around, and Sanctuary just was one of those things that we, were searching for Sanctuary, because we lived on a cul-de-sac, and we always played, war games and tag and flashlight tag. And we had a thing called Hope to See the Ghost, which was you ran around the yard, and it was basically like a game of tag that you played at night. So we had all those. When you got to base, that was Sanctuary. So, of course, that became part of our lexicon. It's like, Sanctuary, made it to base. Anyway.
I didn't realize that Sanctuary was something that Logan didn't quite know about at the beginning, and he found out from the computers. So in my recollection of this film, I always thought that he had known about that, and that was common knowledge. So it was good to go back and see the film and try to look at it from this is the first time I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do remember the following. This is probably a good thing to talk about at the beginning. I remember having a general distaste for this movie, that I avoided it a lot, to be honest with you. And the reason was I really disliked this version of dystopian future. And maybe it was the hedonistic, brainless citizens of the bubble city that I just did not like. And so I do remember sort of just writing off Logan's Run. It was probably after Star Wars came out, because I probably looked back on it and said, come on, you got to add some good and evil, some nuance, some heroes. If you ask me, Logan's Run's not much of a hero, right? He's not searching it for the betterment. He's searching it because the computer ran his clock up and stuff. And
sure,
he was forced into doing this. And I think he has some feelings for the female lead, and certainly that's evident, but it wasn't like he was saving someone. Anyway.
So let's go ahead and play the trailer from Logan's Run before we get into it.
Just imagine a world where you will hold your entire future in the palm of your hand, when a tiny glowing crystal will guide you through an existence in which each day is more wonderful than the last, where it will be possible for you to obtain the fulfillment of every fantasy, the satisfaction of every vanity, the absolute attainment of every wish.
Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer presents the Saul David production of Logan's Run. A fantastic journey through a world beyond imagination. Welcome to the 23rd century. The perfect world of total pleasure. Imagine a world in which you need never be alone. You touch a switch, turn a dial, and the perfect lover steps into your arms. Every pleasure is yours to experience.
Runner!
There's just one catch.
When the tiny crystal in the palm of your hand flashes its final message, your time is up. Michael York is Logan.
Run, Logan!
Policeman in a perfect world.
No!
Trained to track down runners.
Run, Logan!
Until he is forced to run himself.
He's a runner.
Logan!
I'm your friend, I understand. We all go crazy once in a while. But she's a runner, and it's over.
Overwhelming, am I not?
Box, an incredible being. More than human, more than machine. Diabolical guardian of the gateway to freedom. For Logan and the woman who loves him.
Terminator.
I've never seen a face like that before. That must be the look of being old.
MGM takes you into a new age of adventure in the first motion picture of the 23rd century. Logan's Run. It begins where imagination ends.
This film came out a year before Star Wars. They had been trying to make it for a long time, at least since '69, and just literally got stuck into development hell. The screenplay was by William Goodman from the novel of William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson. There were certain elements of the book that they kept and they modified. For example, they raised the age from 21 to 30 because you can get more actors. But what would this have been if they had hired actors who were 21 and under?
It would have been a little like the Hunger Games, if you
Yes.
ask me, a little bit of that. What are we sacrificing children? That's news to me that it was changed from 21 to 30.
Okay.
In considering that, I can't imagine the movie with up to just 21-year-olds because if, you're in this super hedonistic society by 30, it's probably you've done everything. You're not raising any children. But in this particular scenario, they don't have jobs. They're 100% taken care of. They're just totally live for pleasure.
This film starts with a title card. It's in the 23rd century. It's after wars and starvation that humanity has now gone into these domed cities where automation is taking care of everything that they ever would possibly need. They get to live and do whatever they want to, but they do have to take part in a fiery ritual called carousel. And so at the age of 30, they have to go and reach for the chance to be renewed.
Yeah,
but
renew.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I will say the opening scene where they fly over the city and it's super clearly miniatures. I was laughing out loud. And to be in this world of post Star Wars where the ship flies out over you in the first scenes in the movie theater where you're literally floored by the giantness of this ship. And it was a miniature too, but you didn't know it was a miniature. You were stunned at this detail. Then you saw this thing and you can almost see the wires for the things.
I think Star Wars also showed the level of craftsmanship that can go into not only the storytelling, but also into the visual effects. And after that title card, you go into the domes and it looks like something out of Thunderbirds, right?
Exactly.
And it's now these models are huge. I've seen pictures of them. They're huge and they're using forced perspective to make it look like they go off forever.
Right.
And I really think that maybe Walt Disney had watched this movie and said, I'm going to build Epcot to look like this,
I have no doubt.
It has this huge tracking shot. Everything is so dramatic, but in our 4K high-def TVs of today, you can literally see the styrofoam.
It is really cool to look at this movie opening credits, in that miniatures scene, and then think about the same opening scenes in Star Wars and the battles and the other miniatures that were used in that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of shows where it talks about you can watch the stars blink out as the ships move through the star field, right? Because the little stand is blinking them out, but you don't notice it.
Right.
In this thing, you could tell because they put real water in the ponds, and it didn't react like an ocean or a very large lake. It acted like a spill on a table. I loved it, though. Don't get me wrong. It did do what they were trying to do, which was to set this environment as being wonderful, huge, open spaces. Everything's beautiful, clean, and everything's clearly taken care of. But it's one of the funny things that you think about that scene, and then later in the movie, they are outdoors and they're sort of like the sun is blinding them. They're like, what is that? It's so bright. They have never seen the sun straight through the dome because the dome has some kind of, protective blocking and things like that. It's sad to think that this is what we're brought to because we couldn't manage our environment. We couldn't manage our relations with other nations, and just sad.
The movie was directed by Michael Anderson, and he's an Academy Award-winning director for the movie Around the World in 80 Days, which I'm sure I've seen at least once, but if you asked me what the story was about, All I know is there's a balloon involved. You may have noticed that the actor who played Doc, the plastic surgeon, was Michael Anderson Jr.
Oh,
So his son was hired in the film
that's funny.
as well.
I love those little tidbits of nepotism.
The musical score was by Jerry Goldsmith. I thought it was a great example of using music in telling a story. You'll notice that whenever they are inside the dome, there's a lot of mechanical style instrumentation and electronics. And as you were saying, when they come out and they see the sun, all the electronic music is gone and it's all orchestral underlying it. The production company, MGM, spent about $9 million on it. They were willing to spend that money because of the success of two prior science fiction movies. One we've already covered on the show called Westworld, and the other is Soylent Green. Now, I know you've seen both of those.
I have.
Right?
And Soylent Green was a favorite amongst me and my young friends at the time. And we would run around middle school screaming, "The scoops! It's the scoops!"
We're going to have to put Soylent Green on the
Yeah,
list
we
to
should
talk
definitely
about.
do that.
That's one I definitely want to see. The film actually made $25 million. It didn't do too shabby. It won a Special Academy Award for visual effects. It was very groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, which just goes to show you how far things have come.
They may have won it for the holography at the very end, where they're interrogating, where the computer's interrogating Logan.
Yeah, where
and they bring
head
out
spinning.
his 6 personalities. That holography may have been the first time that was used in a motion picture.
Yeah.
And between interviews with the director and with Michael York, they believed that within the next 5 to 10 years, this is how you would see movies. You would basically go in and it would play out on your desk or something. So
Yeah, still waiting for that.
they were totally wrong. I'm not holding my breath for that one anymore. Michael York, what did you think of him?
I never liked him in this role. He
Oh,
does
no.
not fit. My take on him is I was never that believable that he was part of this hedonistic society, that he was always a little bit askance of it. So his transformation into this investigator of Sanctuary kind of wasn't a big leap to me. I just don't think he was the right actor for that role. I never have believed that. I mean, he's a great actor, don't get me wrong. I think he did a very nice job. But they're just, of that time, there's a lot of people that I think might have been better. One of them is Jan Michael Vincent.
Oh,
Would
okay.
have been better, in my opinion.
Okay.
You know, kind of a really good-looking guy, very athletic. Probably would have been right in on that hedonistic society. He didn't do it for me.
Did you like him as Basil Exposition in the Austin Powers series?
Hello, Exposition.
Austin, let me bring you up to speed. Dr. Evil has hijacked a nuclear warhead from Kreplakistan.
Only 2 things scare me, and one is nuclear war.
What's the other?
Excuse me?
What's the other thing that scares you?
Carnies.
What?
Circus folk.
Oh, yeah. Yes. No, he was good in that. Yeah, now I think of it as like, okay, yeah. And I'll be honest with you, this is a thought I had from way back. But I remember watching this movie thinking, that's the wrong actor. And it was probably the first time I ever thought that. I just believe he was not the right guy. I think he's a fine actor, did his best, but it didn't work for me.
I liked him very much in the film. What I didn't remember so much of a British accent during the movie. So obviously this takes place, as we find out at the end, on the eastern seaboard of the United States.
It looked like it took place in my hometown of Annandale outside of the Beltway.
I was going to say, it looked like it took place where they filmed MASH, if you ask me. But
Yeah, no, but I mean, if you look at how far it was before they got into the D.C., it's
Yeah,
literally like, because, you know, you can walk from where I grew up in Annandale into D.C. in
there,
about a half a day.
and
I was like, this ain't right.
No. Let's see. Richard Jordan, who I remember playing, I believe it was Duncan, Idaho in the 1984 Dune movie, played Francis Seven.
I thought he was good. I thought Francis
solid.
Seven was good. He had that, just drank so much of the Kool-Aid, kind of frenetic, you know, during the chase and during the tracking, and his buddy trying to convince him to, you know, to get with the program. I thought he was great.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I remember him
he
from
was-
Duncan, Idaho, who is one of my favorite characters in all of literature is Duncan, Idaho. how do you come out with a name like Duncan, Idaho?
It's like Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones is like, okay, he's going to Indiana, and his last name's Jones.
But it has that solid earth feeling, right?
So, in my opinion, the hands down best namer of characters is J.K. Rowling. They're fantastic names, you know?
She's very creative.
Very creative and very amazing on those names.
Very good. So Jenny Agutter, I remember her mostly as the nurse in American Werewolf in London. She is mostly exposed in this film.
Okay, so we have to talk about this. This is hilarious because, so one of my wife and I's favorite shows that we watch, it's called Call the Midwife. And it's about post-war London in the very poor areas where women were basically nursed in their pregnancies by these organizations that were local in each of the communities. And one of them is housed in a convent. And the mother superior of this convent is Jenny Agutter. And she's always in her habit. She's very prim. She's very proper. So I start watching this movie and I'm like, no, what? Because at first you see her, you meet her, and she's beamed into his room as a person for the evening, and you're already like, well, wait a minute. And she's wearing a very flimsy outfit. And I'm basically going, no, that's the mother superior. I have to look away. And then later in the movie, she's completely disrobes, and I am having an existential crisis on the chair because this is the lady from Call the Midwife.
You have so associated her with a particular role that came later that now seeing her, and by the way, she's 23 years old when she made this film.
Right. Well, but here's the really interesting thing, and this is a great testament to her. She is just as pretty in Call the Midwife. She is a beautiful lady, right? She absolutely looks almost the same. It's really cool that this was one of her first films, obviously, or something like that, and then she's gone forward, and then she appears in the series, which is renowned. People love that series. I love that series. It's fantastic. But she really looks so much alike. That's really what was throwing me. Put your habit back on.
Well, I mentioned that she was 23. Michael York was 33, but there's obviously actors who are at least 38 or so in the film.
Yeah.
There's been a terrible error. My life clock must have broken in some way. I'm nowhere near 30. I'm 22.
Should be green. Did you hear me? Green.
Now, don't be afraid.
I'm supposed to be a green. No, you're like, you should have been retired a while back.
Yeah. And they have those jewels in their palm, which is...
Oh, yeah, I forgot to talk about it. They call them the life clocks.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess when you're a baby, they start off clear, then they turn yellow, then you go from yellow to green, then green to red. Well, there might be blue in there. I don't know.
And it's funny how they call them. It's like, I guess they have like an entire crop, because the one guy's like Logan, what is he? Logan 7 or Logan something?
He was like Logan 5.
Right. So, but there's
something.
probably a whole bunch of like, Susie 5s and Bob 5s, and all the 5s basically get rolled up into carousel to be zapped by the laser.
Sometimes it seemed like that they would use that numbering as, oh, wait a minute, I haven't yet become Logan 6 or whatever, and that's when I'm supposed to go.
No, I think it was the 6th or 5th iteration of the person. So they were Logan 5 until he dies, and the next Logan they clone is Logan 6.
I'm not sure if they actually cloned the people, because at the very beginning, when he's tapping on the mirror, they have the conversation about the seed mother.
Yeah, so maybe they're just growing them.
But they all grow up in something that Jessica says later is like, oh, we all grew up in breeders. And she goes, yeah, but I really wish I would have had a mom.
Well, clearly they have removed the burden of motherhood from the people because, I think there's a reason for it. And probably it came out in the book, is that if you had someone who actually was a mom and maybe had a child, they were being a lot less willing to go ahead and get zapped and know that their kid's going to get zapped later. There would definitely be someone saying, yeah, maybe not so much.
That brings us to the old man, played by Peter Ustinov.
Well, before we get to the old man, we got to talk about the robot.
I was going to come back to
Okay.
him.
we can't miss the robot.
No,
He is hilarious. But yeah, let's talk about Peter Ustinov. I love that character.
He's an Academy Award winning actor. And to get him in this small role that doesn't come out until the last third of the film.
But it's great. It's a great role.
Yeah.
And I got a laugh. I did not realize this when I was a kid, but he's basically saying the poems of, is it T.S. Eliot?
Yeah, T.S. Eliot.
Which the stage play called Cats is based on.
Right.
So the Jellicle Cats and what is it? Asparagus, but we just call him Gus, and the three
Gus.
names. That brought so much joy to me when I was watching it this time.
You know they've each got three names? Yes. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It's not just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm mad as a hatter when I tell you that each cat got three different names. See, they got the ordinary name, and then they got their fancy name. And that makes two names, doesn't it? Well, now it's got a third name. Can either of you two guess what that third name is? Come on. Above and beyond, there's one name that's left over, and this is the name you never will guess. It's a name no human research can discover, but the cat itself knows. And never will confess, will you, Henry?
He plays essentially the last living individual outside in the world. He represents that life doesn't have to end at 30.
Right.
So we already talked about Doc.
Yeah.
We also have to talk about his assistant, Holly, played by Farrah Fawcett Majors.
Yes.
And she is billed as Farrah Fawcett Majors. And honestly, that's how I remember her from the 70s. Well, wait a minute. No, I remember a certain poster.
Yeah, the poster was classic poster.
Did you have the poster?
I did not have the poster. I saw it many times, but I never owned it.
I had a little black and white cutout from the National Enquirer. And I think maybe my mom or somebody found it one day and it was gone.
Yeah. I think the other one that was really popular is Bo Derek. That was in the movie 10.
But she had a face that launched 1,000 ships, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay. Roscoe Lee Brown as Box.
Hilarious. I remember the robot. Yeah, this is how sketchy my memory is on this whole movie, and it was probably because I wasn't as into it back in the day, or maybe I was on a date or something, and that wasn't what was capturing my attention. But that was hilarious. It was so funny, especially the close-ups where you can see the plastic mask glued to the guy's bottom lip.
If you think that this is a man in a box covered with mirrors and aluminum foil, you're right. Yeah. That's it.
And he bangs into stuff all the time. It's like somebody's driving because I don't think he was walking in the box. They were like driving him.
Yeah, he was motorized.
It was so awesome. God, it was hilarious.
And even though you can see the film crew, so what?
I didn't see the film crew. I was laughing too hard, probably. But the interesting part of the story is that all these people that are unaccounted for, that because remember the computer says that they think have gone to sanctuary, but you find out that no, they're in the deep freeze because this guy stopped freezing fish and started freezing whoever came by.
Yeah.
Right. Which is interesting because you would think the computer would know about what this robot, who's a computer, is doing.
Before I get there, I just want to say that my memory of this film was always tainted by this scene. And my opinion hasn't changed, other than the reveal of what happened to anybody seeking sanctuary who got this far, what that meant.
It could have been done with a walkthrough. Is that what you're saying?
Or just make him someone. But he talked about, is he more than man or is he more than machine? It started making me wonder if he was a person who at some point started to become a cyborg until by this point, he was no longer recognizable as a human, except for on close-ups where you could see the individual back there, which may have explained why the main computer didn't really know about him.
Yeah, that's a reasonable theory.
That was a very bothersome part of the plot for me.
Well, and the other part about it that got me is, okay, so this guy's collecting food from the oceans and freezing it, and then they stopped coming. Okay, What was he doing with the frozen food that he made? Why is he just keeping it in the deep freeze? I mean, what's the purpose here? Was he collecting food to feed the dome? And also, how is he next to the ocean when he's also somewhere east of Washington, D.C.?
Don't think about that part too hard. That also bothered me, but don't think about that, okay? It is. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
They kind of set some things up. So you're right. I wonder if people were actually becoming food, you know, a la Soylent Green.
A la Soylent Green, you got barbecued, you know. They don't really ever show people eating much, though, did they?
No.
Yeah.
They were too busy for eating.
It's still funny, and I laughed in watching it. And his end was pretty hilarious, too, because he essentially falls over and can't go anywhere.
I can't go anywhere after that. Once he's gotten blown up and everything.
It was like, do you think any of the people that came through just decided to push into him and flip him over?
Okay, I want to play a game.
Okay.
This game is called Utopian or Dystopian.
Okay.
And I'll take the Utopian, and I'm going to let you do the Dystopian.
All right.
The promises of Logan's Run is this utopian society where you have endless leisure, pleasure, and beauty.
Yeah.
But the reality is,
your life ends at 30, no matter what you do, or who you are, or how good you live your life, or how moral you live your life. It doesn't matter. Everybody's the same. Everybody dies at 30. It's a little like, I don't know if you've ever read the book Watership Down, but they go from community to community. And in one of the communities, they live this beautiful life of poetry and leisure, and everybody's well fed. But the bargain that they find out about is the farmer gets to kill some of them periodically. So they pay the price to live this life, and they just gladly go along with it. It's very similar.
The utopian view is one of eternal youth. There's no aging, there's no sickness, but that's because
it's enforced by a ritual killing that turns into some sort of celebration that people flock to see these friends they care about, possibly. Maybe they don't care about them. Maybe that's the problem. Are mechanically murdered with a laser. No one's reborn, right?
That's the dystopian view, but the utopian view is that there's always the promise of renewal at Carousel. You just have to run and grab it, and you might get the 31. There's also the apparent freedom of choice and love and sex and lifestyle.
Yeah, these choices are all superficial because the actual system that's running the show dictates the real terms of life and death. I have to say, one of the things that was missed on this is that everyone always has a choice. And even though they're living in this wonderful environment, I'm sure that some people are going to have a bad time. What do they do if someone decides that they're going to murder someone else, or they're going to kill themselves, or they're going to do horrific things to each other? They have the Sandman police is basically just for runners. They don't investigate crimes. They can pretend like crimes don't occur. I just think that was just silly. Anyway.
I think that's the utopian society, though, because everything is so taken care of. There's no reason, there's no money, there's no class warfare.
Yeah, but you know, human nature in those conditions will create the strife that they so desperately need. There'll be cliques and there'll be us against thems, and no matter what they do, that's going to happen. It would just burn down to that, especially when no one has to actually worry about getting anything. It's just given to them. That would have evolved very quickly into a disaster.
And we have a place called Cathedral, and we will ship any unruly children who do not behave within the boundaries of what society is until they turn green, and then we reintegrate them into society so that they can then turn red and have the chance to renew.
Yes, very disturbing. So
this film, I had said at the beginning, we both agree that this film is dark, and it puts a layer of something that is supposed to look very good on one end, but the reality is that at 30, you're ritually killed in a public celebration. It really is that hallmark of what a dystopian society would be. It's not that there's necessarily an external force that is controlling this, because obviously there's a computer, but so much time has gone by that nobody really questions, and I'm going to put nobody in air quotes, nobody really questions that, hey, it's your civic duty. But there are some who do. And these people, they are called runners. And the Sandmen are there to terminate runners. And they use clinical words for murder or killing, whether it's renewal, whether it's terminating. Michael York, I think early on, Jessica tells Logan that you're killing people. And he says, I've never killed anybody in my life. I've terminated them. So even he is unable to see the reality of what he's doing because he knows nothing else other than this system.
Right. He's totally immersed in it. He can't even get his head above the water. So I totally agree. That's sort of the core. I do have kind of this even darker for me because I always think about all the people come out of the dome. They have absolutely no way to make food. They have no skills. They've never really worked a day in their life. What is going to happen to those people? They're going to wander into the woods? They're all going to die.
Everybody's got to come and touch the old man first.
Well, yeah,
right?
sure. Like, oh, that's an old man. None of us are going to get that old because we're all going to die of starvation because we have zero skills. We have no food put away. It may have been that we were eating the people that were terminated because they were barbecued with a laser. To me, that was the darkest part of this whole thing, that there was no soft landing, right? There was no, okay, we're going to start putting you out periodically into the outdoors and we're going to start doing this crazy thing that the computer taught us about farming. It was like, it's completely covered and then nothing. And you have one dude that's living in the capital. I have no idea what he's eating. Is he eating cats?
Well, he's eating those little nuts. Remember, he's cracking those little nuts at the beginning and the cat's tail keep going back and forth into him.
Yeah, well, I think he was on a 100% cat diet.
Matt, that was brilliant. I did not think of that.
These are the things that my head goes to, is like the end of the movie. I'm like, oh my God, all these people are going to die.
They're all going to eat cats.
They're going to start, I mean, it's going to be horrible. They're going to get old and then they literally have zero skills. It's like, oh, you want to have sex all day and lay around on couches like Romans? Great. I know the people for you. You want to actually work and till the land and store food for the winter, which you've never heard of before because you've never lived through snow or cold weather?
So what I found most disturbing in the film was with Francis, and this is why I thought the character of Francis was really, really good, because Logan is actually sent on a mission by the central computer to find sanctuary.
Right.
So the computer has this algorithm where it says, okay, I know what the current population is. I know how many people go to renewal, AKA they're killed. I know how many people have been terminated, AKA they're killed. So I know the balance of where all the people are, except for like 1,056 people. I have no idea where they are. And this ancient Egyptian symbol of an ankh is connected to this word called sanctuary, which is connected with runners. So therefore, sanctuary must exist, and that's where the missing people are. And Logan has his life clock fast forwarded by 4 years, so that as a Sandman, he now appears that he is going to run, but he's really on a secret mission that only he and the computer know about to find and destroy sanctuary.
Although I will point out the computer never agreed to give him his time back.
Question. My life clock.
Retrogram complete. Proceed 03303.
But am I still Red 6? But I had 4 more years. I will get them back, won't I?
You will take the object Ankh with you for identification.
Question. Do I get my 4 years back?
No, it did not. It did not. So it could be a one-way mission. This now puts Francis and Logan at odds because Logan really can't explain to him what he's doing. But there's this underground railroad of people who are helping people to get to the next section to find sanctuary. And Logan is transmitting the coordinates of where he's at because he's doing his mission until he gets to Box. Once he gets to Box, he realizes that no one ever left, and they escape, and they have that gorgeous scene where they're seeing the sun for the first time. The disturbing part is that Francis is chasing him. Francis sees the frozen people. He sees the truth of the outdoors. He sees that Logan, his crystal is cleared. But the entire time, he says what is actually real is the lie. And he still believes in what he has always known.
He can't evolve.
That was the part that really struck me, that when people are faced with the undeniable truth of the situation and they can't accept what that is because they are so conditioned. And I thought that fight at the very end between him and Logan could have come straight out of Star Trek. It was so staged.
It was staged, but it was kind of a good fight. So a lot of fights, it's like the bad guy gets a couple licks in and the good guy basically dominates the fight. And this was not that way. In rewatching, I wasn't sure who was going to win the fight, really. But I totally get what you're saying. And it is the most disturbing part, is that faced with absolute irrefutable evidence, people will still cling to what they've believed all along. I think it's human nature.
One of the things that I love about science fiction, when it takes 2 hours to make the point, but they make a good point about people and the human condition.
Yeah, and it takes a special kind of person that's willing to look at things in a new way. You know, I think all of us as humans have been in that thing where it's like, well, no, it's always been this way, or this is what we've always done. And you just don't think about things in a different way, and it's more is the worse for us. But yeah, no, I thought that was a great point. Of course, my mind races on to what are they going to do for food, and you're going to get all those people out?
You're looking for the sequel of Logan's Run.
No one knows how to farm, right? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they go back.
I don't think so. I think that is over. But maybe they have enough food stored up to get them through the first winter or something. But I am a big fan of those, what you call, where there's a disaster happens to the Earth, or an alien invasion, or there's a near miss of a comet or something like that, and then you're faced with trying to rebuild society, but it's all based on the fact that there are people that remember how to shear sheep and raise cattle and plant plants.
At least they have the old man to tell them how to bury people.
Yeah.
So they know what to do with the people.
Which was actually a really good, interesting point, that they didn't understand what the cemetery was. They just like, what are these names?
Oh.
What is mother? That was a really good point. I think that probably came right out of the book, because that seems literary to me.
Right.
And then the idea that he asked them, because I mean, think about it. If you're the last person around, you probably are like, who's going to take care of me when I die?
Well, are we ready to ask the question?
Sure.
Does Logan's Run groove through the decades, or did it lose its beat?
I will give it a qualified, it grooves through the decades, because I think it has something to say. I enjoyed watching it. I think there's a little bit of campiness that, pre-Star Wars science fiction is something we should all remember, and then thank our lucky stars that Star Wars happened.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was an enjoyable film to watch, and definitely has a story to tell. There's a little bit of gratuitous nudity, but hey, it's not terrible. It's not highly sexualized, even though you'd think, I mean, there is that scene about sort of selecting your partner for the evening thing. It's a la any of the dating app type that we have nowadays, although the person doesn't get beamed into your living room. It's interesting. So I'm going to say, yeah, I think it actually still holds water this far in the future.
I really enjoyed coming back and revisiting this film. Like I was saying, from my memories of this, didn't remember too terrible much about it. I just remembered Box, and I remembered the runners. I remembered the Sandman outfit. I had forgotten, or maybe I just didn't realize how much I enjoyed the musical score from this. It had a really great statement in terms of what we were just talking about. But for me, I'm going to still say that this one lost its beat for me. I enjoyed it. Is this one I'm going to come back and watch again? probably not. It's 70s science fiction before Star Wars, but it's not one I'm coming back to again and again.
Yeah. As a rejoinder, I would just point out, for me, if you recall when we talked about it, when I started, I said I had a real bad memory of this as being not good and not wanting to see it. And I honestly believe that I may have stopped watching it when they got to the Capitol, because I don't remember anything that happened after that. So I may have just said, oh, so they got away. Great.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of why maybe I felt like it had sort of dropped off and ended for me too prematurely. And then now watching it with the full ending kind of gives you that more complete picture. But yeah, I get it. It's definitely campy. It's kind of cool for people to understand where we're at in the 70s before Star Wars in terms of science fiction, and the material was there. A lot of the classic science fiction was written, but the cinema, the movie industry had not come up to be able to handle those types of things. And so it was cool to see what it was and what it is now.
This is a film that if they ever made a decent series like how HBO did a Westworld series that reimagined the original Westworld, I would really like to see something about this particular society that would be able to explore more of it in an episodic nature, more than just what we saw, because I'm fascinated by the world. And I would definitely like to see more of that.
I agree 100%, but here's my prediction. If you are going to go on Sanctuary day after tomorrow, right? And your buddy's going to go on Sanctuary day after tomorrow, right? Would you just fight to the death for the hell of it? I mean, I'm just thinking that people would probably be like, yeah, there's going to be a fight to the death because they're going in Sanctuary. I mean, they're going in Carousel tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like, I want to say that the hedonistic nature of humans would just stop at sex and gastronomy and food. But I think we know humans are horrible, horrible creatures that would find some kind of horrible pastime if they were in this type of cage where every little thing was taken care of. And to me, that's actually more frightening than the actually, like, what's portrayed in the movie of them having to float up to Carousel and get zapped, right? It's actually the worst thing would be is that people realize I could be as bad as I wanted. It doesn't matter. We're all going to die at 30.
I think we should cover that when we talk about Mad Max one day, where we get more into the apocalyptic, where you probably see more of the base nature of mankind come out.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Again, always a pleasure. Chuck, thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you, listener, for stepping into the Dome City with us. Logan's Run blends dazzling 70s sci-fi style with a chilling vision of a world where freedom has an expiration date. Big thanks to Matt Sargent for joining me again today, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know over at cinematicflashback.com, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our full archive, blog post, and hey, leave us a message. But please be sure to subscribe on your platform of choice and share us with your friends. And join us next time as we review Robert Wise's 1971 science fiction technical thriller, The Andromeda Strain. Until next time, renew, escape, or run. The choice is yours.
Flashback, baby, we'll take you there. You want it.
Right. That flimsy frock with no actual bras in evidence anywhere. It's just nobody seemed to have. Maybe it was to titillate the audience. Maybe that's not a great word, but you can cut that whole part out. Anyway.
Oh, that's gold.